When you feel deeply, you grow silently. Have you ever noticed how the moments that changed you the most were often the ones no one else saw? Not the loud victories, not the applause, not the social media highlights, but those quiet nights where you sat with yourself, heartbroken, confused, and unsure, yet somehow you kept going. That's growth. Not the kind that the world celebrates, but the kind that happens in silence, the kind that transforms you from within, because real growth isn't loud. Real growth happens when you feel deeply. When you feel deeply, you begin to see life differently. You stop running from emotions that scare you, pain, disappointment, heartbreak, fear, and start learning from them. Every feeling, no matter how heavy, carries a message. When you allow yourself to feel instead of distract yourself, you start to evolve in ways no one else can see. You become stronger, softer, wiser, all at once. This isn't the kind of growth that comes from reading motivational quotes or pretending to be fine. It's the kind that comes from sitting with your emotions and letting them teach you who you really are. When you allow yourself to feel deeply, you begin to understand what emotional strength truly means. It's not about keeping a straight face when everything inside you is breaking. It's not about pretending that you're fine or convincing yourself that you don't care. Real emotional strength is about allowing yourself to experience every wave of emotion, the good, the bad, and the confusing, without letting any of them define you permanently. Most people mistake emotional control for emotional suppression. They think being strong means not crying, not talking, not showing weakness. But the truth is, strength is built in the very moments you allow yourself to feel what you've been running from. Because every emotion you suppress doesn't disappear. It hides, waits, and eventually demands to be felt. Think about the times you've gone through. Heartbreak, failure, or rejection. Those moments don't just test your patience, they reveal your capacity to endure and to grow. When you sit with the pain instead of escaping it, you give yourself a chance to understand it. You begin to see that every emotion carries information. Your sadness shows you what matters most to you. Your anger reveals where you've been mistreated or ignored. Your fear points to the places where courage is waiting to be discovered. Feeling deeply doesn't weaken you, it awakens you. It connects you to yourself in ways that numbness never can. But it takes courage to feel. It's easier to scroll, to distract, to talk over your emotions instead of listening to them. Yet, the moment you stop running and decide to face what you feel, that's when the shift happens. You start to build resilience, not by avoiding pain, but by holding it with awareness. You begin to realize that pain doesn't last forever, but the lessons it teaches do. Every time you survive an emotion you once thought would break you, you become stronger. You build emotional muscles the same way you build physical ones, through resistance and repetition. And with time, you learn that feeling deeply is not something to fear, but something to respect. True strength comes from vulnerability, from standing in your emotions without judgment. When you feel deeply, you gain empathy, compassion, and understanding. You stop seeing emotions as problems to fix and start seeing them as experiences to embrace. You become more patient with yourself and with others. You stop seeking shortcuts to healing and start trusting the process. Because every emotion you allow yourself to feel fully transforms into wisdom, into depth, into quiet confidence. That's emotional strength. Not the absence of emotion, but the courage to face it, learn from it, and let it shape you into someone more grounded, more aware, and more real. Silent growth is one of the most underrated yet most powerful forms of transformation. In a world obsessed with visibility, where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and validated, silent growth feels invisible, almost unappreciated. But that's where the real magic happens. Because true growth doesn't announce itself, it unfolds quietly, in moments no one else witnesses. It happens in those long nights when you're questioning everything, in the mornings when you decide to keep moving despite the doubt, in the still moments when you choose peace instead of proving your point. Growth that happens in silence becomes the foundation for the person you're becoming. It's the kind of change that doesn't need an audience because it's not built on applause. It's built on integrity, on discipline, on consistency. When you grow silently, you stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop needing to show the world your progress because you're too busy living it. The world may not see the tears, the reflection, the quiet battles, or the small wins, but that's okay. Silent growth is sacred because it's authentic. It's not about external validation, it's about internal evolution. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and start quietly doing it, something shifts inside you. Your energy becomes steady, your focus sharpens, and your confidence becomes unshakable. You realize that progress doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, a better reaction, a kinder response, a calmer mind. There's a deep kind of power in not needing to announce your journey. When you're growing silently, you're not performing for anyone, you're transforming for yourself. You don't need people to notice your growth because you can feel it. You know you've changed when the same situations that once broke you now barely shake you. You know you're evolving when peace becomes more important than being right, when you choose boundaries over bitterness, when you walk away without resentment. Silent growth isn't about doing more, it's about being. It's the quiet evolution of your mindset, your energy, and your priorities. The beauty of growing silently is that when your growth finally speaks, it speaks through your presence, not your words. People begin to sense it in your calmness, in your decisions, in your silence. They may not know what changed, but they'll feel it. And that's the most powerful kind of growth, the kind that doesn't need validation, only self-awareness. So when no one is watching, keep going. When it feels invisible, keep growing. Because one day your silence will speak volumes, not through explanation, but through transformation. Your emotions are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers. Every feeling you experience, no matter how uncomfortable, carries a message. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to listen. We live in a world that tells us to move on, stay strong, and don't overthink. But growth doesn't come from ignoring your emotions, it comes from understanding them. When you slow down long enough to ask why you feel a certain way, you begin to uncover truths about yourself that logic alone could never reveal. Your emotions are not random. They're road signs pointing you toward healing, awareness, and self-discovery. Pain, for example, often feels unbearable, but if you sit with it, it teaches you where you've been neglecting yourself. It reveals your unmet needs and hidden wounds. Anger can show you where your boundaries were violated, where your voice was silenced, or where you've been tolerating less than you deserve. Fear can highlight the areas where you lack trust in others, in life, or in yourself. And even joy teaches you. It reminds you of what truly matters, what gives your life meaning, and what you should make more room for. When you start treating your emotions as messages instead of burdens, you realize that they're not here to break you. They're here to guide you. The challenge is that emotional awareness requires patience. It's uncomfortable to sit with feelings we'd rather avoid. But when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you create space for healing. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding thoughtfully. You learn that your emotions don't control you. They communicate with you. Instead of saying, I shouldn't feel this way, you begin to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? That simple shift changes everything. It transforms pain into perspective, confusion into clarity, and emotional chaos into wisdom. Learning from your emotions is one of the most powerful steps in personal growth. Because when you understand what you feel, you stop projecting, you stop blaming, and you start taking responsibility. You begin to act from awareness instead of wounds. You become emotionally intelligent, grounded, kind, and self-aware. That's when you grow silently. Because your growth isn't visible to everyone. It's happening within, in the way you process, the way you forgive, and the way you choose peace over pride. So don't run from your emotions, lean into them. They're not signs of weakness, they're signs of life. And when you learn to listen to them deeply, they'll teach you everything you need to evolve. When you allow yourself to feel deeply, something powerful begins to shift inside you. You start to connect not just with yourself, but with others in a way that words can't describe. Deep feeling builds bridges that logic alone could never create. When you've truly faced your own emotions, your heartbreaks, your fears, your disappointments, you develop a kind of empathy that can't be faked. You begin to understand people beyond their words. You see their pain in their silence, their effort in their smiles, their hope in their struggles. Feeling deeply gives you emotional vision. It allows you to sense the unseen and connect on a human level that goes far beyond surface conversations. That's the beauty of emotional connection. It doesn't need perfection. It needs honesty. The more deeply you feel, the more open you become to others' experiences because you know what it's like to hurt, to heal, and to grow. When you meet someone who's struggling, you no longer judge or try to fix them, you understand them. You've walked through your own dark moments, and now you carry light that helps others find their way. This is how silent growth spreads, not through preaching, but through presence. People feel safe around those who have faced themselves. They can sense when your empathy is real, when your calm is earned, and when your kindness comes from a place of depth. Feeling deeply also transforms your relationships. You stop chasing validation because you no longer need someone else to complete you. You've already met yourself. You start attracting people who value authenticity, who appreciate emotional depth instead of drama. You stop mistaking attention for love and instead crave peace, understanding, and alignment. You begin to listen not just to respond, but to connect. And when you love with intention, not to fill a void, but to share what's already overflowing inside you. That kind of love is quiet, steady, and healing. The deeper you feel, the more quietly you grow. You no longer need to prove your worth or justify your emotions. You've made peace with them, and that peace becomes your power. You move through life softer but stronger. You stop reacting to every storm because you found your calm within, and that calm draws others toward you, not because you speak the loudest, but because you make them feel the deepest. When you live from that space, your very presence becomes healing. You realize that growth isn't about becoming louder, but about becoming more loving. And the ones who feel deeply and grow silently are the ones who end up changing the world, one honest connection at a time. Growth doesn't always look loud or impressive. Sometimes it's invisible. It happens in the quiet. Moments when no one's watching, when you choose to pause instead of react, when you forgive someone who never apologized, when you stay soft even after being hurt, when you let go of what you can't control and focus on what you can become. That's real evolution. It's silent, subtle, and sacred. You don't announce it, you live it, you become it. The world might not see your progress right away, but you'll feel it in how you handle things that used to break you. You'll notice that you no longer need validation to know your worth. You'll realize that your peace is now your priority. Silent growth is the moment you stop chasing approval and start nurturing alignment. It's when you realize that not every battle needs your energy, not every opinion deserves a response, and not every emotion needs to be displayed to be understood. You begin to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You understand that growth doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you start choosing what truly matters. You don't need to explain your transformation to anyone. You simply evolve, quietly, gracefully, and powerfully. When you grow silently, you start valuing presence over performance. You realize that the loudest person in the room isn't always the most confident. Sometimes it's the quiet one who has nothing left to prove. You stop trying to convince people to see your worth because your peace already confirms it. You become selective about where your energy goes. You start walking away from noise, from drama, from chaos, from meaningless comparison, and walking toward calm, clarity, and purpose. And here's the beautiful part. People will notice, not because you told them, but because your energy will speak for you. You'll carry yourself differently, more grounded, more focused, more alive. The ones who are meant to grow with you will feel it and rise beside you. The rest will fade quietly, as they should, because real growth doesn't need an audience. It needs awareness. It needs courage. It needs heart. So when you feel deeply, let it guide you. When you grow silently, let it shape you. And one day you'll look back and realize your silence wasn't weakness. It was strength in its purest, most powerful form. There comes a moment in life when you realize that everything you were searching for outside of you, validation, love, purpose, peace, was always waiting quietly within you. Feeling deeply opens that door. When you stop running from your emotions and start listening to them, you begin to understand who you really are. You stop wearing masks, you stop chasing noise, and you start valuing what feels real. Growth happens when you turn inward, when you let silence speak, when you give your emotions space to breathe, and when you finally choose authenticity over approval. The world teaches us to be louder, faster, stronger, but the truth is your greatest evolution happens when you learn to be still and truly feel. Feeling deeply doesn't make you weak, it makes you aware. And awareness is the birthplace of growth. When you become aware of your triggers, your fears, your desires, and your patterns, you stop living on autopilot. You stop letting pain define you and start using it to refine you. That's the beauty of silent growth. It's not about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about understanding that every emotion, even the painful ones, is a part of your becoming. You begin to treat yourself with more compassion because you realize how hard it is to grow through things you never talk about. You stop demanding perfection and start embracing progress, even if no one else sees it. And that's what makes this journey so meaningful. It's yours. No one else can feel it for you, and no one else can define it for you. Silent growth is intimate. It's personal. It's when you begin to trust yourself more than the opinions around you. You start to walk differently, slower but surer. You don't rush your healing anymore because you understand it's not a race. It's a relationship with yourself. You stop shouting your worth into the world because you've already heard it in your own silence. So when you feel deeply, don't hide from it. Sit with it, listen to it, let it teach you. Because the ones who grow silently are not the ones who stay quiet out of fear. They're the ones who have finally found peace in their own depth. They've realized that they don't need to make noise to make progress. Their stillness is their strength. Their silence is their power. And their growth, though unseen, is the kind that changes everything. When you allow yourself to feel deeply, you begin to understand that emotions are not weaknesses. They are windows into your truth. Every tear, every ache, every quiet moment of reflection becomes part of your becoming. The world often praises the loud, the confident, and the outspoken, but real strength isn't found in noise. It's found in the courage to sit with your emotions, to embrace your silence, and to grow from within. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it unfolds quietly through awareness, patience, and the soft decision to keep showing up for yourself. The journey of silent growth is not easy because it demands vulnerability, a willingness to face what's inside without escaping. But that's where transformation truly happens. The more deeply you feel, the more you connect with your humanity. You stop seeking control and start seeking understanding. You learn that your emotions don't define you, they refine you. You begin to sense that every heartbreak, every fear, and every struggle was shaping you into someone wiser, calmer, and more real. And that realization changes how you move through life, softer but stronger. In the silence of your growth, you start to build an inner peace that doesn't depend on anyone's validation. You don't need to shout about your progress or prove your worth. You simply become. The noise of the world fades, and what remains is your truth. Quiet, confident, and grounded. You stop chasing the approval of others because you've learned to honor your own emotions and trust your own voice. That's the moment you realize you've evolved. Not because others noticed, but because you finally did. And when you reach that space of deep awareness, your presence itself becomes a lesson to others. You don't need to convince anyone of your growth. They'll feel it. You begin to inspire not through your words, but through your calm. You show that peace is possible, that healing is real, and that silent strength is the loudest kind of power there is. So keep feeling, keep listening, and keep growing. Quietly, deeply, and unapologetically. Because when you feel deeply, you grow silently, and in that silence, you become everything you were meant to be. Thank you, and goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to this message. If it touched your heart or made you think differently about your own emotions, then it's done its job. Remember, your silence has value, your emotions have purpose, and your growth has meaning, even if no one else sees it yet. If this video brought you peace, clarity, or courage today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-centered talks every week. Take a moment after this video to just feel. Don't rush back into noise, sit with yourself for a while. That's where the real transformation begins. Until next time, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and remember, the ones who feel deeply grow beautifully. Thank you for being here. Stay grounded, stay kind, and keep growing, silently but powerfully. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next Heart Talk.